Okay, guys, I'll show you what I'm working on right now with the goose. I've got a roof formed for it, and it's just a slight hip roof. I was out on the internet. I was looking at some of the original galloping gooses. There's a couple of them that have a roof very similar to this, or one that is rolled. So I went with this. Fit up real good. I've got a shear and I've got a brake press, so it was relatively easy to do. The other thing that I finally accomplished was that I drilled and tapped the radiator front so it will stay on there, and it will make it easier to get off because I've got some work that I'll probably do inside this this hood, and I can't do it if the of course, if the radiator front is permanent. The bottom of the truck is solid, so that makes it difficult to work on. The other thing that I've done, and this really turned out nice, I made a rubber stamp. I just finished making the signage on this. Now this is just a trial piece. But I'm using what's called bright metallic. Basically, it's aluminum as far as I'm concerned, from Rust-Oleum. Stuff is fantastic. Like I say, I generated a rubber stamp. I just rubber stamped this about 10 minutes ago. The ink, of course, is not dry. And I'm always in a hurry on stuff. So the paint on the signage is basically less than 24 hours old, and the first rubber stamp, while it was very good, it was a little bit too faint, so I used mineral spirits and wiped it off. I wouldn't advise that really until the paint gets a whole lot harder. It didn't smear, it didn't come off, and it's not gloss, so that it doesn't have any effect on it. But I could tell by the way that my microfiber cloth was touching the front of it when I gave it a second cleaning, things were wanting to stick. So paint didn't smear, came out real good. Now my bigger question is, how am I going to mount this? I've thought of two ways. I'm kind of a miniature nut and bolt guy, and I thought about maybe on each side mounting it with a 440 or maybe even I think it's a 256, 258 screw, either blackened steel or stainless steel or brass. I can go that route and use a brass nut. The other thing I thought about doing is this. Get everything painted up, get the signage ready to go, leave the back of the signage raw. Underneath the signage, remove all the paint to the bare metal, and then put epoxy there. Set my signage exactly the way I want it. Don't move it, and let it cure for 24, 48 hours, whatever it takes, and, and leave it that way. The reason I think about using the epoxy is I don't care how well I lay something out. I'm either a high at one end, low at the other, or a shift. And then I do what I call Waller technology. I waller out the holes until I can adjust it just so, and then I tighten the ever-living hell out of it to keep it proportional, so it ain't running uphill, downhill, or whatever it is. If I were using epoxy, that would solve a problem. I could get everything in place, let it dry, and it'd be finished. So that's what we're up to so far. I'm going to strip these bodies. I'm going to put some ladders on here. I may put a coupler on there. My problem was I put the motor really too far to the back. Had I put the motor just a quarter of an inch farther forward, that's an original coupler hole. That would it would have, in the curves, it would have missed the coupler. I can move the coupler almost to the brace, and it would probably work. We'll just have to see. I don't have to have a coupler on it. It's just that I got this thing. If you're going to have a power unit, you got to have couplers on it. So there we are, guys. I'm really, really, really well pleased with the rubber stamp and the quality of the stamping that I got on this thing. Makes me happy. You guys have a, hey, we got a weekend coming up. Most of you stay sober if you can. We'll see you next week, maybe. Toodaloo.